Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Buffalo Bills virtual town hall event to celebrate Women's History Month. I'm Maddy Glab, a multimedia journalist for Pegula Sports and Entertainment. Tonight, we look forward to culminating the Bills month-long celebration honoring the power of women. It's been so awesome to see specifically how the NFL has invited a lot more women into the league in so many different positions over the last 5 to 10 years. And even specifically the Buffalo Bills, it's been so cool to see some women come in and be coaches. So cool to see so many women walk through our halls every day. But I would like to welcome in some awesome women who are on our panel tonight. Of course, Bills owner and president Kim Pegula. Guys, she's a busy woman. There's a lot of stuff going on in Buffalo here right now. So we are so excited that she was able to take an hour and be with us tonight. Also, City of Buffalo's Chief Diversity Officer, Shatorah Donovan. Shatorah, I know you are also busy. So thank you for cutting out the time in your schedule to be here with us. And then the NFL's Senior Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Sam Rapoport. One of the coolest people I've ever met. You got to give her a follow on social media. She champions for women all over the place, all the time. Just a great human. And I have loved getting to know her over the last year. And last but not least, guys, we've got a country music artist on our call tonight and a Bills fan. Let's welcome in Meghan Patrick. So we've got this great group of 4 women to help kick off and set up everything that we're going to talk about surrounding being a woman in the world today, what it's like to be a boss and what it's like to break down barriers and break down lots of doors, because I know we have all done it. And I know a lot of you on this call have probably done it as well. But to kick things off with our first question tonight, Kim, I'm turning it to you. You wear so many hats, not only in the sports world, but also in the business world. You're a mom and a wife too. I don't know how you can juggle so many things and do it so eloquently too. And you've been on a podcast with me. You help host a podcast with me. I don't know how you carve out all those minutes in your day. I know you don't sleep a lot, so maybe that's the key right there. But can you tell us a little bit about what your day-to-day looks like? And I know it changes kind of season to season, right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes, it changes from day to day, hour to hour. But just want to say hi. I can't see you guys, but just so excited to be here, especially the women and the young women that we have on this call, because I am, like you said, a mom of 2 women. They do not listen to me anymore. They are out of the home. So the fact that I'm going to be able to talk to young women that maybe might listen to me this time around, I'm really excited about. So like you said, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a stepmom as well. You can throw that in there. And every day is different, Maddy, as you know. So right tonight, I'm going to be flying to Buffalo. Actually, I'm in Florida right now. Going to fly to Buffalo. Got some events to do with our partners. I've got an NFL league meeting, as Sam knows about that. The next couple of days I'll be in Buffalo, and then I have to do wedding planning for my oldest daughter's getting married. So I have to go to her destination wedding in North Carolina to do a bunch of wedding planning. But honestly, I love what I do. It's so much fun. It's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights, as you said, Maddy. But I tell you what, I so much enjoy what I do. So I try not to think of the business as a negative thing. Plus, I mean, I'm doing podcasts with you Wednesday night, like and Brandon Bean, like, I mean, how exciting is that? I get excited about the things that I do. So no, it is. But I think when you find something that you really love to do, it just never seems like work.
So I totally agree with that, because when you find something that you are so passionate about, it doesn't matter the hours that you're putting in. But if you have to give one piece of advice for how you've been able to balance so many things, what's that piece of advice that you would give to people?
I would say just not to beat yourself about it. You're never going to do anything perfect. Like, something always has to give, but that's okay. I mean, I think it's just doing the best you can and not beating yourself about not being there all the time for your husband or your boyfriend or your friends or your family. I mean, when you try to juggle as many things as I do, there is a priority list you try to do. But when I mess up, I mess up, like, so I think that's really, really important, just taking it in perspective and stride, and just still not, beat yourself up about it.
I love that you said that, because I think as women, I know I personally have done this all the time. I feel like we cannot mess up and we have to be perfect. Like, I have to be perfect in everything that I say to prove that I am worth being in a world of men working in sports. I feel like I have to outperform, outstudy everybody next to me. And while yes, that is true, it's okay to fail at times, because I feel like we learn a lot when we fail. Shatorah, I've got the next question for you. You are here, there, and everywhere, all over Buffalo. I feel like during the summer we went to a couple things, and you were there, and you're talking to so many people, and you're helping the mayor prep for press conferences and things like that. You can be seen pretty much everywhere in the city. And I know this year has been tough for so many people because of COVID, because of all the protests that have happened, because of things like George Floyd dying. And we know that trial is going on right now. But we also know that this summer has been a summer of learning. There have been so many protests that have happened throughout the country this summer to protest that Black Lives Matter and to protest that we should love everybody instead of hate. I wanted to ask you, can you tell us more about some of the work that you're doing with the city of Buffalo to support minorities and women?
Yeah, I do a lot of things. One of the coolest things I got to do was actually something that the Bills and the Pegulas supported, which was the Buffalo Business Blitz. And I worked on that project with Josh Norman and his foundation, Stars 24. We were actually able to give over $500,000 away to local businesses in the city of Buffalo. So one of my major focuses in my role is economic inclusion. So I understand, and the mayor understands, that a lot of the racial disparities that we see around us stem back to disadvantage and disinvestment, right? But if you're able to give folks the opportunity, whether that be through a living wage or helping them build a business or an education, all of those things will assist folks to rise up and out of those systemic issues. And so we do that, but also, or I do that. And a lot of things I also focus on are policies and practices. So really diving deep into historical practices that happen within the city, whether it's with our contracting or hiring, things like that, finding ways to be high level in the policy, but also very tactical in our approach, so that what we do trickles down to the community. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is that the efforts that we expend are felt by the community we're trying to help. And so from that came in an initiative called Buy Black Buffalo, where we promoted shopping with Black-owned businesses during the holiday season, right? And that was a committee put together from that community. And so what I really want to do is replicate that over and over again for communities that are disadvantaged. So those are some of the things that I work on.
I didn't know if you knew that on my Christmas card that I sent to every employee that we have, I put the Buy Black Buffalo website on my Christmas card. Yes, and I actually gave a small gift. So I was trying to promote that they come to one of the shops during the holiday season.
Oh, thank you. I have the best job in the world.
I saw that and I was like, oh, that's such a great idea, Kim. That's so great. But Shatorah, we are so thankful for people like you. I mean, I know a lot of the times people want to give back and they want to help the community and they want to help disadvantaged areas of the community. But a lot of times people don't know where to turn. And so to have someone like you who is partnering with players, partnering with groups, partnering with communities all across Buffalo, it's an easy, point A to point B. Here, I want to help. Shatorah has brought these things to light and make it really easy, so I don't have to go and do all this searching or try and find areas that I can donate to or give my time to. So really thankful for people like you who have been able to bring that to light and bring that to social media, because I think that's been a super powerful way to give back this year. I know we haven't been able to really volunteer a lot because of COVID, but definitely give back by buying takeout meals and things like that.
Awesome.
Our next question is for Sam. Sam, the NFL has changed in a lot of ways over the last 5 to 10 years, I keep saying, and even year to year, I'm sure in your eyes, with the amount of women that we're seeing in more prominent roles that would usually be taken up by men. One of the women that I love to point to that was at the Buffalo Bills for a year was Callie Brownson. We loved when she was with our team as an intern coach. And just to see her on the field with a bunch of men, but also women mixed in, was so cool. And to see how she was able to command a group of men when she was on the field at practice was just amazing. And the players had so much respect for her too, which I think was the coolest thing. And I think that's probably what you're seeing change now most is people are respecting the women on the field too. It's not just like, Sarah Thomas, she's an NFL ref. I don't know if I'm going to trust these calls. It's no, I'm going to trust her because she knows what she's doing and she has the background and she has all the knowledge to back it up. So in your role of focusing on diversity and inclusion for the NFL, how have you been able to see players evolve over the years to support women and minorities in the game of football?
Sure, great question. And like Kim, I just want to welcome everyone and all the young girls and women that are on this call. When I was your age, I played football up until about 29 years old. So for any of you girls that play flag football, big kudos to you. Yeah, great question, Maddy. So 5 years ago, we had no female coaches in the NFL, and we decided we wanted to change that. And Kim was the first NFL owner, not first female owner, first NFL owner to raise her hand and say, I want to be a part of this and we want to be a part of the change. And, Callie Brownson was a great example of that last season, 2 seasons ago with the Bills. But before Callie was, Phoebe Schechter, and before Phoebe Schechter was Catherine Smith. And so the Bills really have been leading in bringing women on the football field, which is where they should be, in addition to on the business side. And so we're excited about the progress. Now we have 8 full-time women who are coaching in the NFL. And I don't want to break any news that shouldn't be broken, but I just have a good feeling that the Bills will have another female coach on the sidelines this year. And it's remarkable that the Bills have really led in this effort. And to answer your question directly, Maddy, the players love it, right? What we hear from the players is, we want the football team to reflect what society looks like, right? And society is not all men. Society is not all white men. We want our football team to look like what the country looks like and what I grew up with. And so the players say, if you can make me better, it doesn't matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what race, ethnicity you are. I want you to make me better. And Callie made people better, and so did Phoebe and Catherine.
Yeah, it's been great to see so many women. Callie was the first one that I was able to work with, but even Phoebe, I had never met her in person, but we were able to connect over social media really quickly after I got to the Bills. And I remember we did a feature last year just highlighting the women who were in more football-centered roles in our offices. And I remember a quote that Kim said, and it just stuck out to me. And it was so true. Kim said, I can be walking around the football hallways or walking outside at practice, and I see women every single day. It's not like I'm walking down the hallway and I see one woman and I'm like, oh, good to see you. There's multiple. And so I enjoy going to work so much because of that. And I cannot wait till everybody is back in the office. Meghan, this next one is for you. As a country music artist and a public figure, how important do you think it is for female artists in your industry to support one another in what you do? I know sometimes also as women, we feel like there's only room for one of us in whatever role that may be. And I think it creates a lot of not hate, but it creates some conflict sometimes. And people feel like you have to beat each other out for that one role in that one spot. And I think it's nice to like reform our thinking that there's can be more than one spot. There's lots of seats at the table for us. It just doesn't have to be one. So for you as an artist, how do you think it's important just to support other females in an industry that's so hard to break into and be successful in?
First, I just have to say I'm honored. I feel like I'm just over here writing country songs and you guys are like changing the world. So like, I'm very honored to be here. And, you know, especially in the country world, there's been a lot of conversations over the last few years about the discrepancy in, you know, women that are on the charts at radio, on lineups at festivals. And the reality is that in a sense, there were limited spots for women. It's kind of, and the industry itself kind of was pitting women against each other to feel that way, like we had to compete with each other and we couldn't support each other because we were all just like scratching at that one opportunity or that one slot. But I'll say when I moved to Nashville, I have the most incredible group of girlfriends that are all artists and songwriters or working in management or on the label side of things. And they are absolutely crushing it. And we all love each other and we support each other, because the reality is the way you change opinions about women in music is by proving time and time again how good we are. And we can only become better if we're supporting each other. And when you're wasting that energy on comparing yourself to somebody else, that's energy you could be putting into making better music and being a better performer, being a better musician. And, you know, and when you look at like the men, and I'm sure it's probably very similar in the sports world too, like they're all buddies. They're taking each other out on tours and writing songs together and hanging out. And it's like, and I never had that with women before until I moved to Nashville. And now we all look at each other like, I can't wait till we do our own headlining tour with all of us. And we write songs together. We go to each other's shows. We post about each other on our socials. We talk about each other in interviews and promote each other. And as a result, I feel like there's this whole movement of women who are all getting the attention they deserve because we all believe in each other and are elevating each other together.
That's so true. And I think it takes one person to change a culture and one person to turn things around. I know in the NFL, we have a huge group chat for all the female team reporters who work for each team. So just like I'm a reporter for the Buffalo Bills, there's a reporter for the New York Jets, there's a reporter for the Detroit Lions, and we all have this big group text that is constantly going off with support, advice, questions. Hey, I wear hair extensions. What hair extensions do you recommend? Just random things like that. But also if a big trade happens, that group text is going off too. And I know I was so happy when I got a DM from one of the girls saying, hey, welcome to the NFL. Do you want to be invited into this group text that we all use to kind of support and love on each other? And since then, we've been doing several Zoom meetups too throughout COVID. So it's just a great support system. So I encourage that in every realm or walk of life, wherever you work. If it's not a good atmosphere, it takes one person to change it and turn it into the right thing. Kim, I'm going to turn to you for another question. So this isn't really a question, but okay. Kelly from Orchard Park tennis team said, go Jessie Pegula. So can you share a little bit just about your daughter Jessie's journey and how she got to where she is now as a professional tennis player, competing all over the world and kicking butt too? She has been doing so well as of late.
You know what? You know, I don't know for the moms out there, but you know, of course, you know, Jessie she's been playing tennis since she was 7 years old. And you know, you try to provide the opportunities for your kids, but you know, when she says, when your 7-year-old says, oh, I want to be a professional tennis player someday, like, oh, that's great. You know, you take them to lessons and things like that. But now, like, actually seeing her, like, living out that dream is amazing. You know, she's 27 years now. It's taken a long time. She's been at it for 20 years. And we always call her our first our first sports team, our first franchise, because certainly, listen, you know, the the amount of work, practice. She's had every injury that you can imagine. It's such a singular sport. She's been, like you said, all over the country at such a young age. And that's where we, I think, really fell in love with sports as such a positive way to give back. And a lot of times people will say, well, you know, why did you give money for this hockey team or this hockey facility or football team? And I was like, because I think because of her, we just saw what the benefits of sports can bring, even if you're not the athlete itself, but just for us, for her, just the self-motivation, the organizational skills, the self-confidence, the physical attributes. Like I said, traveling around the world when you're 13 years old, playing in Hong Kong and you know, France and all these places, things that like I've never done in my life. I didn't do it till I was over 40. So we just feel like, you know, she was a great example for us to really learn and understand sports, the values that it provides, and how much it gives back to a community, to a family. So it's been crazy year. I don't know what it is. 2021 has been her year, and it's just been a lot of fun, and I'm trying to enjoy it while I can.
I was just watching an interview that she was on, and she said that her confidence has just soared through the roof over the last year. And I love when I hear someone say that, specifically women, because I feel like confidence is something that we can really struggle with. And I know that I've struggled with at times, but when you're able to harness that, and when you're around a community who gives you that confidence, you can do some really amazing things. So it's been so fun to watch her. I don't usually watch tennis, but anytime Jesse's on, I'm like, okay, I gotta watch this. It's gonna be good. So.
Yeah, she's been great about pumping up Buffalo. Like, you know, that's what she puts on her athlete card, whatever. She says she's in Buffalo, so she's got a lot of Buffalo out there on the tennis courts.
That's so great. Shatorah, I've got one for you. This is from Marina, a 6th grade student and Girl Scout. So not my question. Thanks, Marina, for submitting this. How has diversity education made a difference in your life? Can you talk about your education and also resources that are available in our community for diversity education?
Ooh. Diversity education. Well, first of all, I just want to say I am a huge tennis fan, and huge tennis fan. And it was watching tennis that I discovered your daughter, and I was like, Buffalo is so cool. But first, life in and of itself is your diversity education. I want to start there. You know, understanding our history. I spend a lot of time understanding the history of how the history of how we got to where we are as a nation. But beyond, you know, being super philosophical, really, in my opinion, of all of the trainings and seminars and everything, the one thing that will teach you the importance of diversity is having an open mind. If you have an open mind and you really want to get to know people, right? If you're able to go beyond the surface of what you think someone is like and really want to get to know them, who they are. Because the one thing I can assure you is that people are so much more complex than the way that we've boxed them in, right? And so I think it's really important if you want to increase or know more about diversity, know the people around you, get to know them, be vulnerable to a certain degree, you know, allow yourself to be known, allow people to know that you're not perfect. That's something that also comes with time and that failure that we have to experience a little bit, to know that we all go through it. We all have really tough days. But yeah, that's what I would say. It's really hard, especially being younger, getting past all of the surface. It's not easy. And I'll be honest, it wasn't until I was really 30 that I started to see the world differently, and stopped comparing myself to everybody around me and just really focused on how I impacted the people around me. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question well, but get to know people, love people for who they are and not who you think they should be.
And I also think this may be more at our age level, but to expand outside of your comfort zone. Don't just meet the people around you. Get outside of that comfort zone and meet people who maybe don't live in your neighborhood. Meet people in the neighborhood that you might not go to a bunch. Meet more people, because the more people you meet that are outside of what you're used to, then I think that also helps shape a true picture of the world instead of just the bubble that we all live inside, because we all live inside a daily bubble that we wake up, we go to work, we go to these stores, we see these people, and it's easy to get, transfixed on just what's right in front of our eyes. So to expand your bubble, expand what you're comfortable with, I think helps. And for people who are younger than us, I think playing in sports does a great job of that. I remember being a kid and being on a bunch of different softball teams and having so many people on that softball team or different softball teams that didn't grow up how I did, that didn't look like I did, that came from different states or different backgrounds. And I thought that was also just a great way to learn about people, but also make relationships with people who aren't exactly like you. Would you agree with that too?
Absolutely. And it's fun. You just have a good time with it. And some of the people you wouldn't suspect would be, your biggest supporters turn out to be your biggest supporters, but you would never know if you just box them in. So an open mind is really the best diversity tool education you could ever have.
I love that. And Shatorah, I think you have to leave us early, don't you?
I do. I'll stick around a few more minutes.
Okay. All right. No worries. We're happy to have you on a little bit longer.
Always working.
Right? Aren't we all? I feel like that's one thing that women do best, is continuously work and forget to take breaks or time for themselves, because we've got to prove everybody wrong. But this next one is for Sam. Sam, this is from Jaden from Girl Scout Troop 70245. She wants to know, are there women who play football? Sam, even though you're currently not an athlete, I know that you were for a long time, and a really great one. But what impact do you think women can make throughout the game? And are there opportunities, which I know you know about these, that women can play in football currently?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jaden. Girls play football all over the world, certainly all over this country. Women play football as well. There's a women's professional tackle football league in this country where thousands of women are wearing helmets and playing tackle football with the exact same rules that the men are. And interestingly, 2 of the Buffalo Bills female coaches played female professional tackle football at a really high level. So the Buffalo Bills offer a few programs for girls to participate in flag football. So if any of the girls are interested in playing, you certainly should get in touch and start playing. But women who play the sport are contributing at all levels. They are contributing in the media, like Maddy. They're contributing on the football side, on the business side, and it's a great way to continue your love for football. I retired about 10 years ago, but I was able to still continue my love for the sport because I work in it.
Such a great answer. And if anybody has more questions about that, just type them in the chat and Sam will answer them. We did a whole call, it was a couple months ago, just about flag football for women and girls, and I didn't know how many teams there were out there, and it was so cool to see just over the last several years how big the sport has grown to be for women. And I think maybe if I was younger, maybe you guys feel the same way. You would play football if it was available when you were younger. It wasn't really available for me at all. I probably could find it if I did some searching, but I kind of just played softball. So I don't, maybe same for you ladies. Sam, I know you played it, but maybe same for you ladies. If it was available, maybe we'd all be some tackle football stars right now. But our next question is for Megan. Alana from Williamsville Junior Football and Cheerleading. She wants to know, which women do you admire most and why? And are there any women who have really shaped how you look at your career or are role models in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky to have a lot of great women in my life. I mean, starting with my mother, who is the reason why I'm a Bills fan. She was born and raised in Buffalo. And so for as long as I can remember, I've been watching my mom yell at the TV and throw things and talk about the Bills, and been going to games, much less of the throwing things in recent years, though, which has been great. But I also I was a competitive gymnast and snowboarder for many years, until I had more than my fair share of injuries and concussions. And kind of that was when I shifted my focus to music, which was safer on the body, not so much for my ego and my feelings, but on my body it was. And I had some amazing female coaches, female teammates over the years that inspired me. But I would say the one that probably changed the course of my life the most was one of my female vocal teachers when I was in college. I actually went to college initially and studied opera, which quickly realized was not for me. Then switched into the jazz program, which was, I liked it more as a genre, but it still wasn't really what I wanted to do. I mean, I wanted to write songs. I wanted to have a record deal. I wanted to tour. I wanted to play, which didn't really, I didn't need a degree to do that. And my teacher, I would go into my lessons, and like it would get to a point where we didn't even really practice anything. I would just talk to her about what was going on. And she finally said to me, she's like, who are you living for? Like, why are you still here if this isn't what you want? I'm like, well, my parents, and like, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm supposed to go to college and do all that. And she was like, man, she's like, you got to, if this is what you want and you want it, you got to do it. And so I dropped out, which wasn't my parents' favorite phone call, but they still supported me, just not financially. And so I was very broke for a long time chasing that dream. But she really resonated with me and made me realize that I had to start chasing the things that I wanted and not be so worried. Sorry, my dogs just know how to open the door. And not be so worried about what everybody else expected from me and what everybody else wanted from me. And I'm happier because of that. So guys, quiet. Sorry.
I love that advice, not to be so worried. I feel like we can get caught up as women a lot with being worried about so many things, because we feel sometimes like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders with what we're doing day to day or what we've been tasked with. And I'm a people pleaser. I'm sure a lot of people on here are people pleasers. And so we get worried about a lot of things. Shatorah's saying no. You've learned, Shatorah. Sam saying no. I need to learn how to not be that because that equals being worried about lots of things all the time. And so I'm sure Shatorah and Sam are in a lot better mental state of mind most of the time if they're not worried about a million things or worried about pleasing a million people. But this next one is for Kim and Meghan. Guys, social media can be so great, but it also can be a really Debbie Downer. I know it's easy to compare yourself to other people on social media when you're scrolling on Instagram or when you're on Twitter. People can say a lot of negative things. I know for me personally, I probably get a couple tweets a week about people saying that I suck at my job, that they don't like how I look, that they don't like how I sound. So you kind of have to develop a little bit of a hard shell, some tough skin to be able to overcome a lot of those comments that may come across your Twitter feed, and to also understand that that's not everybody. That's just the 10 people who decided to be online today and think they could say whatever they wanted behind that computer screen, because that empowers a lot of people to say some really nasty, unnecessary things, I think, to women in general, just being on social media. So social media, it's a blessing and it's a curse. But Kim, what advice do you have for women on how to navigate this world of social media that can be so great, but also so awful sometimes?
Yeah. Well, I know personally for me, I just don't read the comments. So I read the tweets.
Way to go. I still need to get there.
I do. I know it's hard, right? Sometimes, but I've just really from the start just said to myself, I'm just not going to read the comments. I don't care if they're good or they're bad. I'm just not going to go down that road. But I think, listen, social media, we do have choices though, right? We choose who we want to follow. And I think that's where you just need to be really selective and say, okay, what, who I'm going to follow? How are they going to add to my life? How are they adding value? How are they going to provide me joy in my life? And try to really narrow that down. I am on social media, but honestly, it takes up so much time. That's another thing, that it does take up a time. So the more people you follow, the more you're just like scrolling. It can get very distracting. So like I said, I just chose not to read the comments, and I really tried to be very selective on who I choose, because I can choose who I want to follow, making sure that they're adding something to me. So that's why I follow you, Maddy. And Sam.
Thanks. I think that's a great piece of advice, is to not worry about the comments and to not read into the comments or even take the time to read them, because usually the comments that you're going to get are some negative comments, and negative comments can bring you down, anybody down super easily. And Meghan, as a country artist, as a public figure, I'm sure people can nitpick at you in a lot of different ways, as well as in the press. You come out with a music video or a song, and people can rip it apart a million times. So what's your advice to how you should navigate through social media?
Well, I mean, I'll start by saying I should absolutely take Kim's advice more. And it's one thing I struggle with, because I really do appreciate and love my fans. And so I really want to be able to be on there and communicate with the positive comments and the people that are, loving the music and saying the nice things. But that means that I also am going to expose myself to truly some pretty horrific stuff. I mean, just really awful comments about my body and my looks and my voice and my music. And, I'm very active in the outdoors and hunting and fishing community, and I'm very vocal about conservation and ethical, moral ways to hunt. And I know it's not for everybody, but I mean, I get death threats. I get pretty like brutal things. And, I have to remind myself that first of all, if you are somebody that is going on the internet to say something mean to somebody that you don't know, that you would never say to their face, like, you are probably a pretty sad person. And so I have to remind myself that the person behind the screen is probably dealing with some things of their own, and they're probably pretty sad and don't feel very good about themselves. And somehow that makes me less angry at them for being so crappy, because it makes me think, okay, this person obviously is unhappy if they would go and do something like this. And also to remind myself to just not respond and get into it with them, which I've done in the past. And it's hard to do. Like, I am the friend. If you ask any of my friends, they will say, Meghan would fight a grizzly bear for me. And that is true. I would, but I don't need to fight every grizzly bear. So, I think it's just reminding yourself, like, okay, has anybody ever said this to your face? Would somebody you love ever say this to you? And the answer is usually no. And so it's just something you got to just kind of slide off your shoulders and not let it really affect you, and worry about the people who matter, what they think.
Yeah, that's so true. I do not respond to anybody who says anything negative to me, because I just don't want to go down that road. I don't want to start a fight. My job is to put things out there about the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres, and to not get in fights with Twitter bots online. So that would be another piece of advice, is to also just ignore those types of people if you're seeing them in your comments. But this next question is for Shatorah and Sam. Guys, we had this awesome photo gallery that went out earlier in the month that highlighted all the women who work for the Bills, Sabres, PSC. This photo gallery was for the Bills specific employees. And so it was cool to see everybody's faces, but they also got to put a quote and a piece of advice. And a lot of the advice was to be kind to one another. A lot of people said that in their advice, which I love. That was my piece of advice too. So why do you guys think it's important for girls to be kind and empower one another? Shatorah, you can start.
It's everything. It's everything, right? How I treat you is a reflection of how I feel about myself. That's it. So if I'm mean to you, I have work I have to do. Right. And so if you're going around and being mean to people and talking down to them, and, that's a problem with yourself. And again, it took me a long time to understand this and recognize this. But how people treat you, how people treat other people says much more about them than it does about the other person, right? And I have so much more peace in my life when I am kind and thoughtful. And you might think, oh, that's exhausting. It takes so much work. And it's really not. Like, actually, I can have really like this lightness about this very heavy work that I do that never ends. You see people walking and giving me work as we speak. But at the same time, you know, you being kind and compassionate and thoughtful allows you to really get the bigger picture of everything that's going on. And you know, it stops you from actually maybe making a bad judgment call or looking mean. And honestly, like, it's just, there's in the workplace, you know, I mean, ask Kim Pegula right here. Like, does, you know, in the workplace, do you ever get to a point where you can just be horrible to everybody around you? You never get there. So why start off that way? So the kinder you are, and I say kind versus nice because kindness is an intrinsic quality and nice is very surface. So when you're kind, it's really something. Kind doesn't mean that I'm just gonna you know, overwhelm you with platitudes and, oh, you're the best person ever. And kindness means I will tell you the truth and be honest. It's a principle, right? But I'll also do it with dignity and grace. So kindness is absolutely a principle of mine that I must lead with. And Maya Angelou said, people won't remember what you did, they won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. So don't forget that.
That's so great. And I completely agree. Kim, I think you're one of the kindest people. Anytime I see you like out walking around, this is like last year when we could all be in offices, but you'll stop and talk to anybody. I know you're really busy, but at the same time, like, you're so easy to talk to. And an owner of an NFL and an NHL team could seem very hard to talk to and on like a different level than other people or just the regular people like me. But it's like, hey, Kim, how are you doing? And we could have a conversation. And it's like even playing field. It's not like, it's like, yes, you're the owner, I respect you, but it's not like, oh, wow, I need to walk away. Kim's walking down the hallway.
Well, one thing I have learned is that no one can do this by themselves, right, Sam? Like, I think that one of the things when we first became owners is how big everything is in the NFL, and putting on just one game a week is a tremendous level. So I could not do it without you and everybody else in the organization. So I try to be kind. I try to talk to everybody because I could not do this job without everybody doing their part. And I think that, I think they just, everyone deserves that respect, because I know it's a big lift, and I certainly know I don't have the skill set to do it all myself, or we wouldn't be watching anything on Sunday.
So true. And Sam, being at the league level and interacting with so many different people from so many different teams, from even different leagues, probably, why do you think it's important to be kind to one another and empower each other as a young girl, not just once you're a professional getting into it, but, starting this work when you're young?
Yeah, absolutely. And not just for young girls, right? For everyone, it is so incredibly important to kind of have that value growing up, and of being kind to one another. And kind of one of the best pieces of advice I got, you mentioned quotes a little earlier, Maddy, is that other women's success is not your failure. So we really live by that principle. And so, when Kim got named the first female president in the NFL, I have a group chat too, Maddy, of all the women on the football side, and you should have seen the emojis that came about, right? It wasn't like, oh, how did Kim get that? And it was just elation because she broke a barrier for us, and now it's going to be easier for the next female president to walk into her place. So if you can keep in mind that when other girls and when other women are getting accolades or trophies or lauded on the internet, you should join that choir of people raising women up, because you'll get your time. All five of us, we've had our time. And it's really important to remember that other women's success is your success also, and you should celebrate it.
That's so great. Celebrating success, no matter who it is, I think is so important. Shatorah, add on.
I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for this opportunity. This is such
thanks.
a platinum gilded panel to be on. And thank you everybody for watching. I'm so sorry I have to go, but this is me not people pleasing and sticking to my deadline.
Way to go.
Right.
So thank you all so much.
Thanks.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Shatorah. We're going to end the night on one last question. It's from a fifth grader, Ella. And if we have some time, I can go through our Q&A box and see if we got any that are still unanswered. But the question from Ella is, how much did support from other women play a role in your success? We will start with you, Meghan.
Well, like I said, it started with some of, whether they were my female teammates when I was in sports, because, I was often like the only girl or one of very few, and I played a lot of co-ed sports growing up. And so, and this is the thing, it's like, nobody's going to understand your particular struggles or frustrations better than another woman. And so, the more that you can be each other's lifeline and support each other, it's just, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing, because I grew up very much a tomboy. A lot of my friends were guys. I did a lot of guys stuff, whether it was sports or hunting or fishing or outdoor stuff. And I kind of just always like prided myself, like, oh, I'm a tomboy, I don't really need female friends. And then I met these girls when I moved to Nashville, and I cannot imagine my life without them. They have changed my life for the better. They've, made me be proud to be a woman, and, to watch them succeed in an industry that I know is tough and has been tough on women. But I mean, I just think that they've been so invaluable to me in helping me embrace every bit of who I am and being a woman in this industry. And I feel like I've kind of lost my train of thought. Sorry, we've been talking about so many different things. But yeah, I mean, these women are just sort of irreplaceable to me and have been my biggest supporters. And it makes me feel a lot less alone when I'm in a frustrated place with my job.
Sam, what about you? How did support from other women help you to get where you're at right now?
Yeah, when I started in the NFL, and even now, I try to just kind of cold reach out to women who are working in the league just to connect with them. That's how I became friends with Kim and a couple of the other females that are working in the NFL. And one of my closest mentors, Donovan, who is the chief football officer for the NFL. So she's basically running football for the entire league. And, I go to her for a lot of advice and guidance. And, not all of it has to do with being a woman. Some of it is just she and I can relate to a lot of the same things. So she gives me a lot of advice in that space. But I just kind of take it upon myself to meet people around the NFL, and women have been very instrumental in my success thus far.
And Kim, what about you? How have support from other women helped you be an owner of 2 teams and a president too?
Yeah. Well, I will say, Sam, I'm going to just, talk about her, because she certainly has been, she's been there from day one for me, wanting to bring more females into football, but I didn't know how to do it, right? And so Sam was just so open and easy. She has such a passion. That's what I loved about it. She has such a passion for this, and she really has been so instrumental in getting women in on our football side, from coaching to scouts and it just snowballed from there. So support from other women is so important. It really is. And plus, Sam's so much fun. So we connect, like I said, on a lot of other things. And, I recognized early on that, I could have gone to the top, or I could have gone other levels, but the ones with passion about and love what they do, and the folks that really are actually getting things done. And Sam was one of them. And so she's been such a great supporter of the Buffalo Bills. With our coach, she's even, she's a big help to our coach and to Brandon and many other areas in our DEI space as well. So like I said, I couldn't done this job without her.
I love it. And we've got a couple more minutes. So I know we've covered like a broad amount of topics and kind of touched everything, but I think it would be cool to end with maybe a piece of advice that we have, maybe that we've experienced in our work life or experienced in life in general. I know a lot of the questions that are here in the Q&A are kind of, you know, what struggles do you face as being a woman in a powerful role? Amongst many men, or how do you balance work and life? So any advice to those sorts of things, or just in general? Megan, we can start with you.
I mean, well, I loved what Shatorah said, you know, about being kind. And this is more so to do with music, but the two things I always say is be kind to everybody that you come across, because, you know, and I'm sure it's probably similar in the sports world too, you know, people want to help people they like being around, you know, and that are a good hang, and that are positive, and that are kind to everybody around them. That's how you gain that success and move forward in your career, is by surrounding yourself with good people and treating everyone with kindness along the way. Also, I apologize. You can probably hear my dog snoring in the background.
I was going to say, it sounds like a car in the distance.
No, it's my dog. She's Ducky. Sorry. And also, you know, I think focus on being who you are. Don't play the comparison game. I think, especially as an artist, the comparison game is one of the worst things that you can do, because again, it's wasted energy. All that time you're spending chasing who somebody else is, or trying to take somebody else's path, is time you could be using to figure out what's really important to you and who you are and what makes you special and what makes you unique, and how you're going to make your own path, as opposed to trying to find how to follow somebody else's. So pave your own way and be unapologetically who you are, but be kind.
I love it. Sam, we'll go with you next. What advice do you have to close off tonight's awesome call?
Sure. So I was just typing to someone there too, but I was fortunate enough last season to meet Billie Jean King, tennis legend and an advocate. And I was talking to her a little bit about what you mentioned about social media, when you get criticism or when people say awful things to you. And I was talking to her, she walked away, and then she said, wait, I have one more thing to tell you. She's like, don't forget, they're not in the ring with you. And then she walked away. And I think that's such a great piece of advice, because for people like everyone here and for everyone who's watching, right? Like, we have our boxing gloves on and we're fighting the fight, and people who are criticizing us are not in the ring with us. And so, you know, don't ever take criticism from someone you wouldn't go to advice for. And I kind of, you know, stay true to that when I'm hearing negative things. And so, you know, pleasure to be here, everyone. I'm stoked to have answered some questions with you all. I'm happy to have been an honorary Bill once again. Yeah, thanks for having me.
I love it. And I will add in mine, Kim will close off with you, because
okay.
I'm sure you'll have something better to say.
No.
I'll keep it like centered to what I do. So in my role with the Buffalo Bills and the Buffalo Sabres, it takes a lot of work to get where I got, and not many people are able to get into these awesome roles, not because you're not good enough, just because there's not a lot of them. There's 32 teams in the NFL. So an important thing is to separate yourself from other people. And my advice would be, if you want to be an on-air talent, if you want to be a reporter, you've got to learn how to do it all first. I didn't just start by being an on-air talent. I was shooting video. I was writing scripts. I was writing web stories. I was editing videos. I did that for the first part of my professional career. I did it all throughout college for 4 years. And then I did it well into my professional career for the first 5 years. And it wasn't until I got the job with the Buffalo Bills that I was able to really focus on being on camera. So I would say, if you're interested in this, you got to be a one-man band, is what people say. You've got to know how to do it all. You can't just be on camera. And also, if you want to be a sports reporter, you got to know what you're talking about. I think a lot of times women get labeled as just being a pretty face on camera and not really understanding what they're talking about. So for that, you've got to know the X's and O's. You've got to put in the homework. You've got to do the work to be able to understand the game of football and to be able to talk about the game of football as if you were playing, not like you're a player, because I don't know as much as a player does. Nobody's going to know as much as a player does. Sam probably does because she played the sport. I didn't play in the NFL. So what I can do is I can do my homework. I can ask coaches for advice. I can ask players for advice. I can go on YouTube and learn the X's and O's. So I think that's a huge piece of advice, is to learn the X's and O's, know the game that you're talking about, and just work hard, because the harder you work, the more that you're going to shine and stand out to people. So Kim, what's your piece of advice?
I have lots. All the things that you guys said, and I would just say, not to be afraid to fail. Listen, when I was your age, I did not say, hey, I'm going to be the owner of an NFL team someday. Like, that was not even in my thought process. So you never know where life gets you. You never know what skills, what experience kind of helps you in your job 20 years from now. So I would just say, don't be afraid to fail. Like you said, if you are pursuing a job in sports, it doesn't mean that a job in a restaurant or a job in retail isn't going to lead you down that path someday. Because to your point, Maddy, there's a few positions open, and it's not just a direct beeline as it is. And I know sometimes we've talked about women having to maybe do more than men just to prove themselves. But I think that's great. That just makes you better. Like, I just, I love that, you feel that way, but it's made you who you are. And the fact that you put in that extra work, it's not always a negative, because I think you as a person benefit from all that extra work. So that would be my advice. Just, not to be afraid to fail, or thinking that you're failing just because you haven't reached where you feel that you should be. That there's lots of different paths to get to where you want to be, and just making sure your eyes are open to all of them.
That's awesome. And I know the hard work can be like daunting and like, oh man, this is such an uphill battle. But as Coach McDermott says, and a lot of the coaches say, you got to fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the process that gets you to where you want to be. That's where the work is going to be done. That's where you're going to be shaped and transformed and molded into the person that you want to be later in life. But that ends our call. It's 7 o'clock. I know we could probably talk about this for another hour. And I just want to give a big thank you to Meghan, to Sam, and to Kim for joining in. We know it's the NFL offseason, but it's free agency. The NFL draft is right around the corner. You've got owners meetings, Kim, and as an artist, you're always churning out new stuff or trying to churn out new stuff. So just thank you so much for the time. I'm sure all of the advice that you guys have given it's going to last a long time for all these young women on this call tonight. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys. I really love being with you guys, and all of you out there. I don't know. Women power, girl power. I don't know.
Girl power and go Bills.
That's right.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Thank you for everybody who tuned in. We loved it. We had a huge number of people. So appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and close out Women's History Month in the best way possible with a little panel from us. So thank you so much. Enjoy your evening. Have a great week. And yes, go Bills.